I'm Desiree Sammoutis and I teach 7th grade English at DeWitt Middle School. So I really wanted to come up with a project that would speak to students and would really get them involved in thinking very deeply about poetry, but that would also tie in with other ideas and things that they had been studying in social studies. And so the idea that I had was to have students kind of learn more about the process of how artists and poets collaborate. I also had a lot of students who were really interested in art. I approached the poem by giving students the project by giving students a lot of choice. So they had the choice to either write their own poem or to select a poem that had been really meaningful to them over the course of our poetry unit. And then they had to come up with a picture that would kind of represent that, something that they could create and that would make a really strong print. So if you were kind of like this activist and you had a message that you wanted to get out there, it was a problem because you couldn't just do everything yourself. And so that made it difficult to put that kind of activist type message out there. And so I'm talking like a long time ago, I'm talking like late 18th century. How he came up with this process to print everything in one place. And I'm going to teach my students about that so that they can understand that when he was speaking out against horrible working conditions and child labor and stuff like that, things that were controversial at that time, that the reason he was able to do it was because he came up with this printing process where he could do word and image all at once. We just used styrofoam plates where they would etch it onto the plate and then color it with markers. We had wet pieces of paper and then they had to sandwich them on top of each other to get their print. And students really learned a lot of persistence because it doesn't always come out just right. And things like the weather, the humidity and stuff like that affected. So kids really had to work hard to get the image they wanted. And I found that students who maybe were resistant to revising their work were not resistant to revising their print. So that was a really nice way in. Ain't Burned All the Bright had just come out. You couldn't even get a physical copy of it yet. They were like stuck somewhere and you couldn't get them. But I got it on Sora. So I read the whole book to the students, which is a combination of poetry and images together. Like the poetry is collaged on top of the image. And students really loved this. They really identified with a lot of the images. There's environmentalism in there. There's a lot about injustice and there's a lot about the pandemic. And so students really latched onto this poem and found the whole process interesting. And we were analyzing, well, how does the image help the poem? And how does the way they put the words on the page help the meaning? And how does it all come together? And then they had to recreate that in their own projects. They took the poems that they had chosen, whether it was theirs or somebody else's that they had really liked, and they played around with the words and they put them on top of their prints to create like a final project. Here are some of them behind me. Students were really excited about this and we wanted to share the project. So we shared it in an online gallery and then students had the choice to do that, or they could share it and we had a display at the public library downtown, or they could do both or neither one. Like they had complete choice over when and where they shared. And they were just really excited about it. They were excited to go down to the library and show people, and they showed the pictures to everybody. Look, it's up in the library. And it was just a really exciting project that I feel like we got so many things, so many lessons out of, some that I didn't even anticipate. So I'm really excited to do it again this year. So this year it's interesting because we have a visiting poet coming for social studies, and there's a real focus on stewardship of the land. And so we're talking more specifically running up to it about poetry as activism, and we're looking at a lot of poets that have kind of like an environmentalist or conservationist theme to go along. So not only are they going to have this opportunity to be these artists, poets, creating this project, but they'll be interacting at the same time in their social studies class with a poet who's out there doing it. And so I'm really excited to see how that comes together and how that enriches their discussion in both classes. And also I think because we are looking at different poetry in here that has that kind of theme and linking it with social studies, with science, with all kinds of things, I think that it's gonna, the real world tie-in is gonna be even stronger this year. Because we are kind of incorporating more poets who are currently activists.